Basically, okay. Looks like I forgot to press record. So Maria, I think you did. Good. And subjective judging. Again, when we talk about annotation, creation, or collection, we're always down to subjective judging because let's say this tree, or let's say this person doing, I would refer to this fitness motion use case as I mentioned. So let's say this person is jumping, but for your model, it's not high enough. But again, it's super hard to tell how high the person should jump. Is it like 1 feet or like 20 centimeters off the ground? But again, when looking on the YouTube video and it's somewhat blurry, it's pretty much hard to tell the exact value. Okay, now let's
Okay,
move
so
in. Yes.
Dennis, just one quick question before we move forward. Actually, I have a question for our audience. So I'm curious, what are the problems or issues that you guys have experienced before? So if you can share with us, that would be great.
This is
And
exactly what I'll be sharing just a little bit later on. I have a real life experience based case ready, for example, ready. Basically, I will be covering the subjective judgment and documentation issues. So basically, all of these ones will be covered. So we did, unfortunately, but it is what it is. We did face all of this. What is it, all of these 5 cases. So I'll cover them in a sec. And
great.
hopefully our
Yeah, so
audience will type lots
yeah.
of questions as I want them to be interactive. So thank
Okay.
you for that. Okay, so as the first things first, when we talk about annotation, we are to cover the annotation type itself. Now, I'm sure you guys know what are the annotation types. I'll just quickly name a few. So as you see here, we do have green bounding boxes. We do have the pavement markings done with polygons. And then we see another bounding boxes over there for the traffic lights. Again, and there are some more red ones with the smaller traffic signs and even the purple person right there. So obviously, as you see, why they're in different colors is just to mark different types of objects. So let's say, again, for this customer, this would be easily vehicles done with green, traffic lights in or stoplights in yellow, and then for people or person in pink. Now, fun part is obviously you can combine whatever annotation types in one. I'm not saying it's always recommended, but this is totally possible. And well, what is a use case? You would know better than me. But in this case, obviously, the customer would like to know where are the cars and if they are crossing the pavement lines and if they are running red lights and where are like live human at that particular moment. So to address all those, we decided to combine these two together. Now let's move on to the next one. And this is the one I would be showing to you live. So as you see here, we do have even 3 annotation types combined together. So you can guess them pretty easy. We have a bounding box, we have points, and we have skeletons. And obviously, I believe it's my bad to forget to type in points, key points, as one of the annotation types. So this is my bad. All right, now, now, as you see, this particular image is somewhat blurry. And the reason why it's blurry is because it is a video project. So let me quickly do this. So obviously, what we are dealing not only with image annotation, but also with a video annotation. Where's the company? Or again, we're not talking about KeyMaker particularly today, because again, it's the point of this webinar is best practices for you there to pick up whoever you want to work with. So we treat video basically in the same fashion as we do with images, as video is nothing else, it's just a sequence of images at a particular frame rate. So if we look at this particular video, we can see, and I can stop it a little, hopefully my bandwidth is good enough. So you can actually see that the points, I can make it brighter. So we can see that the key points or the face bounding box or the skeleton on particular points are moving along with video. Again, why this is done? For this particular case, the customer was just into detecting the person's key points, if he's holding the wheel, what are his emotions, excited, happy, neutral, serious, and so forth. And he wanted also the face skeleton. So answering your question, if you can put all of the annotation types together, you totally can, if you wish. Another, almost the last one, for the annotation types to cover, or the combination of those are these two girls right there. So here, as you see, we have polygon and a skeleton. Now, and talking about polygon or skeleton or any type of annotation brings us into the precision levels. As you see, I can show you this particular image on our annotation platform. Let me do the annotation a little gradient. So as you see, it's pretty high res, right? And if I turn on the polygon annotation, we can see, if we zoom in, that in this particular case, the annotation was done pretty much on a pixel level, right? And I will ask you to remember this one, as this is one of those questions that Maria asked on what we were struggling with. So as you see, in this case, our annotator was actually zoom in, scroll in through the image and draw the polyline along with the borders. So obviously, you can tell that this will take quite some more time. But again, depending on how precise you want to be with your annotations. And precision is basically a next thing on my agenda. So I'll minimize this one. Okay. So what you guys see here is, for me personally, it's frankly, like the most boring slide, as it's a regular customer success or PM triangle, where we're compromising on time, scope, and cost. And as you guys remember, I was talking about precision, right? When talking about this lady right there. And this is what directly affects the cost, directly affects the time, and directly affects the scope. As obviously, we are being approached by a customer, and let's say he gives us, let's say 2,500 images like this, and let's say he's into fashion industry or whatever, face detection, or I don't know, hairstyle detection. I see we have a question. I'll answer it in a sec. So obviously, if we are to annotate it with precision level, with the highest possible precision level, like a pixel perfect annotation, let's say to draw, well, let's say a dress, in this case, would take us like, I don't know, let's say 5 minutes, for instance. If we go a little lower, if we won't be that pixel perfect, let's say it will be 2 minutes, right? Or 1.5 minutes. And obviously times 2,500, this is your quick buck that you can save just on defining the annotation level or precision annotation level. Unfortunately, this is not that all companies out there suggest. So they might be just, okay, so this is the annotation. Here you go. It's super precise. You owe us some money. Thank you. Bye. Come again. But I would say it's that important for you to define if you want that precise type of annotation. And obviously, this applies to polygons, to skeletons, to bounding boxes. And this is, by the way, a good example. You can see that if we break those precision levels into let's say numbers, right? Or we link it to a digit. So the lady in red, as we call her, it's like level 1. This is more like let's say level 2 or 3. As you see, the bounding box is not that precise, so he's just marking the location of the face. But again, for this particular customer, it's more than enough, so he doesn't need to spend that much time to capture that particular face pixel perfect on the borders. Okay, so we have 2 questions. For the last one is the webinar will be shared after it ends its recording. I believe it will be posted at our YouTube channel, right, Maria?
Yes, it will be. It will be shared. We'll send it by email to the participants with a link so you can review it after.
Okay, and I see another one, but I'll save it
Yes.
to the very end.
Oh,
Okay, so
actually, Dennis, one thing I
okay.
wanted to add. So, one interesting thing I wanted to add to what you were saying previously about types of annotations. And if you go back to the example of the guy driving the car,
Mhm.
so here we're talking about emotion annotation as well. And one of the very interesting use cases with emotion detection is that it's very, very subjective. And what we usually face here is that each project or each client defined their emotions differently. Though it's the same emotions, but the way they recognize it's very different. So that's like another issue that we see a lot, like definition of what is happiness or what a certain emotion is.
Yep, exactly, and that is obviously a good catch from your side, as let's say define the emotions, or even if we talk about the key points, right? What if let's say the person would turn his head, so you cannot see my left ear, so it's occluded with my own head. So the annotators or the operators or whoever, they will need to guess where to put that particular point, which would be, let's say, somewhere here, if I use my face as an example. And then there are a lot of cases when the person or the customer will be like, well, guys, this point representing this ear should be here. But again, there is no way to prove it. So it's all down to being good people to each other and just use it with experience. Cool. All right. So as we're running short in time, I will fasten up a little bit. So this picture there represents the precision levels that I was talking about. So if we look at the this little coffee table, right, or this super nice living room, I believe I have it. I have it here. Do I? Yeah, I do. So let's say it's the same particular living room. So as we see, if we talk about the coat or the pillows or the coffee table, everything is done again on the pretty much pixel level annotation. If I can keep zooming in, right? And this is how I actually do it, if it's required. If you look at this banana, right, or carrots, you can see it's the borders are done with quite less precise in mind. But again, this was not required. So guys, just keep in mind to define what are you to tell to the service provider who is to do the annotation for you. Okay, now for the subjectivity that Maria mentioned, and for the rules and other types of documentation. Subjective judgment, and I'll start with it as this is a good example. So let's say we were talking about the annotation, right? But on the very beginning, we also mentioned there is data collection and data creation. So if we talk about data collection, let's say, and this is one of our customers' use cases. So we were to collect images, again, from the open source. And some of the images were rejected by the customer as they were, let's say, for example, blurry. So I will show you just a couple images from Pexels in this case. Well, chickens is not that good, but okay, so let's say this Japanese pudding. Hope you guys are not hungry. So let's say the customer noted that resolution is fine, but the blurriness of the image can be about 1/3, right? Or up to 40%. If we look here, we can tell that this onions in the middle of the soup or this sashimi over there, it looks pretty okay. And then the blurriness starts where the sauce is or right there. So again, how can we tell, or how can you align with the person if it's a 35% blurriness or if it's a 45% blurriness? So it's super subjective. Same as this bowl of soup right there. It is blurred, but again, based on our criteria was like 1/3 of the image can be blurred, but this image was rejected. And the customer considered it's too blurry. Well, customer is always right, so we just took it out. So same with this image and so forth. Another example can be. Yes.
Now I'm hungry.
Sorry, it's lunchtime is coming. Well, depending on your time zone. Well, one more thing for the subjectiveness. Let's say we were collecting the nighttime shots, and well, obviously the customer was about to tell us that, guys, having some noise effect is okay, but not too much. And again, we have to sign up this person, but for the noisiness, this is the proper word, you cannot actually define to what extent the image might be noisy. So let's say this jellyfish is too much noisy, this is too much, this is too much, and this one is okay. So again, the more defined you can be on the rules, the better. So this is for the subjective judgment. For the guessing criteria, I slightly touched it when I was referring to, let's say, the face points, right, or the key points on the face, and I was talking about one of my ears being included. So guessing criteria is something that you want to define on the rules or documentation. So let's say, guys, you can totally guess where the point is, or let's say where I annotate my body, but I'm scratching like the back of my head, so you need to guess where my hand is. So you either let the service provider to guess, or you completely take it out of the window. So basically, if object of interest is occluded by whatever, or it's not visible, you can just like, okay, just skip that frame or skip that particular image. So you reduce basically the future corrections. Same goes with the edge cases. I believe there was a good example with the blurred bowl of soup that made Maria hungry. Again, edge cases is something you want to define with a thumb rule. Basically, it's all down to if you see something like this, do that. For instance, if half of the image is that blurred out, take it out. We're not interested. Or if you see a point or object of interest occluded to half a thing, talk about my palm. So it's basically like 1/3 occluded by my hand. You can annotate it. If it's completely covered, skip it. So it's all down to a thumb rule or defining the rules. And I believe I need to speed up a little as we're running super short in time. So I'll just scroll through this one real quick. So here, I wanted to represent to you, let's say a customer would like to go ahead and annotate people running, right? But he or she didn't specify how big should the object need to be annotated, or how small should the object need to be annotated. So basically, what is the minimum and maximum size of an object? If it's 10 by 10 pixels, or if it's 30 by 30, or if it has to be distinguished by a human eye. So when working with large data sets with a lot of objects per image, always pay attention to min and max object quantity and their size. And as obviously, some models will not pick up more than 50 objects or more than 100, and you can see crowds of thousands of people. So again, this will directly impact on your cost and time and level of efforts. This basically was already covered as well. So let's say we're talking about faces or face detection. We're annotating face with a bounding box. But as you see, that person right there in the back, he's slightly occluded by a different one. So again, it's all down to documentation and rules. Should you guess? Can you zoom in here? No, I can't. It's all about for you to define the rule if the annotator should guess where his face extends to, or he should only annotate by a visible part. Same for occlusion, same for overlapping, and the visibility rules. Now, the last one for the annotation thing, let's say why I put one interpreted guidelines. So let's say you're as a customer approach us and you work with interior designs. And this is, again, one of the real life use cases. So you'll be like, okay, guys, so here's my super manual, and we need to annotate all interior objects. And we will, well, not we, but whatever your service provider is, we'll go like, okay, super, and they proceed to annotation. But what about the window, right? The window is not annotated. What about the flower, right? Or how you call it, house tree? Or what about this little horse right there? So basically, it's all about defining what is a particular object or what category it belongs to, because just saying annotate everything inside will not actually answer. What about the reflections as we see something reflected in the window? What about the, Maria, how we call it? The thing you put your window curtains on? Curtains
Curtain?
holder, let's say, right? Or curtains bar, right? So this is obviously an interior part, but this was not annotated as well because the guidelines were not that proper. So this is totally up to you to define, sit down with your project manager, whatever your service provider is, and cover the rules of annotations. What should be included, what should be skipped, what should you rejected, and why. Okay,
Also,
so yes,
Dennis,
we have questions and we're running out of time. Yes. Go ahead,
okay,
Maria. Yes.
just one thing to add here. It's interesting observation. So even when the annotation guidelines are very detailed and cover everything, still there is a place for interpretation. So actually
Exactly.
doing what's a solution for it, at least from our side, is doing like a little simulation, sample of few images or few videos, and then verifying the correct interpretation of the operators with the client. Because even the most clear and simple guidelines can be understood in different ways. So there's always important to confirm when you are processing, like going forward with annotation project, that your guidelines are understood and understood correctly, because that's
Or
not a
at
given.
least if you're capable of asking proper questions. Maria, I suggest the following. As we are like 2 minutes past due, I say let's go through the questions. As we don't have time to cover this part, so we can insert it to a next webinar, but I want to address the questions or at least call them out. So I'll go from the bottom. So Eamon, sorry if I say your name wrong. So thank you for too many questions, too little time. Thank you for sharing capabilities. Hopefully we can share our contact info so he can answer all of those questions after. So there are more questions to follow. So Maria, if you can just advise where people should go, where they can ask those questions, basically contact us type of thing. So that we can follow up with people after the webinar.
Okay, yeah, guys. So we'll share our contact details in a minute. You can contact us directly, no problem. Also, you can go to our website, contact form, submit anything. This will be addressed as well.
Mhm.
So that's for the last question.
Okay, and I will cover the next one if you don't mind.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so from the one from Jose. So he was asking who completes the annotations for you guys? Where do you find the workforce to do the tech? Also, do you want to work in English? You can work in other languages. So basically, we as a key maker, we have our own in-house team of 300 plus annotators. So let's say the platform, the annotation platform, right, for this particular annotations were done by us. If we can work in English or we can work in other languages, again, as we covered this in our webinar today, it's all down to the guidelines. Images do not have languages unless it's, let's say, some word detection kind of project or translation or something, but it's all down to the manual. So if you speak whatever language, just give us the manual. We'll make sure we translate it correctly. We'll create our own internal walkthrough for the operators to do the job, and they will execute the project for you. So basically, you can do whatever language. We'll translate it. We'll sit down with you to see if we understood it correctly based on all those subjectiveness, guessing criteria and so forth, and we'll just execute it. So the approach is flexible, what to say. So this is for Jose's question. Okay, and I believe there is almost like the last question left. How do you know to mark the driver as holding the steering wheel when do you not see the steering wheel or the hands in there entirely? So this is the question on this gentleman, I believe. So question is, how do you guys mark his hands for the steering wheel if you don't see it entirely? And I'll pause it right there, just at the random spot. So as you see, in this case, okay, so let's say this particular point is following the right wrist, right? So we see it, so we mark it at this particular point. The points that are not visible, they are extended to the edge of the frame. So again, for this particular case, the customer wanted the key points to have this particular coordinates, right? To represent that the object of interest is out of the frame. If it's a steering wheel, if it's the wrist or a particular hand. So in this particular case, we don't guess, we just mark the objects as they are out of the frame. In some cases, we can totally guess, again, based on the guidelines. So if whatever is included by whatever, we'll mark it through that object. But in this case, we just mark it on the edge of the screen, as you see with this point left wrist right there. So this is for Ron, for Ron's question. Okay, and Maria, the very last one, if you want to call this one out, as this was to your question from Eamon, that's the very first one, I believe. You see it? Let me actually read this through. So for Maria's question, using machine vision on board fishing vessels to count targeted fish types and species for stock assessments. Client, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. Okay, I don't really see. Oh, I believe that was just an addition to what Maria was saying, or I was saying when there's a lot of fish in the ocean. But basically, this is just another good use case on where you can look at the belt of the fishing vessels and the fish just go through it. So you can automatically detect or train your model to see what type of fish is there. So you can see if it's a sea bass or it's, I don't know, penguin, for instance. Same for whatever, you can track the whatever crops you have, and it detects the stages of them being, well, this basically takes the ripeness, if there is a proper word, ripeness, okay, of them being ripe. Basically, that tomato is red enough to be picked up. So whatever image you have, whatever criteria you want to annotate it with, if the emotion is excited or here serious, if the action is moving left and holding the wheel, if the fish species is a penguin or a sea bass, totally up to you. Just basically let the annotation company know what you're looking for and give them a proper manual to save yourself from future issues, let's say. It's super unfortunate. I've been too talkative on the previous topics, so I believe we really need to put this one on hold to our next webinar as we're 8 minutes past due. So I would say,
Dennis, if you scroll,
yes.
if you scroll to the last slide, we will have our.
This one.
Oh, sorry, no, it didn't update. Never mind.
Yes, it's basic. This was very basically the last one, but
Okay.
I don't want to play on the feelings and extend our webinar even more. We should have just booked it for a longer time, but this is a lesson learned. Okay, and the last one for Gianna. Would you support me if I want to learn annotation tools of KeyMaker? I don't know if that's the question, but we're always hiring. But yeah, sure, just go to our website, you contact us, and if this is something we'd like to do, we'll definitely revert back. So short answer, yes. Okay, so the webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel, so it's available for you with all me being talking. And please keep yourself updated regarding our future webinars, as we have this topic uncovered, and this is that important. But again, unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to finish it today. Gianna, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, I believe we're done then. Maria, anything to add from your side?
No, I think we covered everything.
Super,
Yeah, and guys,
then,
if you want to contact us, just hello@keymaker.com. Basically, our website, hello@keymaker. I will be happy to answer all your questions.
yep, super. So then Dennis and Maria out. Thank you.